All right, welcome everyone. We've got a very special podcast. One of my dear friends. He's been on before. We're here again. We got the man, the myth, magician, aka Antonio Esfandiari. Antonio, what's going on? How are you?
Hello, PBF. It's an honor to be back on your show. There are many things that I've wanted to accomplish in my life, and I can now check this one off. Again, one was Howard Stern, and two was this show twice.
This
And
show
so
twice.
I feel like I finally have reached that plateau, and I'm very excited about it. It's a big day for us, for me, for the family, really, for the brand, for everything.
It is big. I will say you're not the first two-time guest, but you might be the first three times. So let's see how today goes. See how everyone responds, and we'll see.
How many other two-time guests do you have? Have you had?
Rast, King Rast. We had Rob Young.
The king, obviously. Rob.
Yeah. So Jungle Man. Jungle Man was on.
Jungle. How's the jungle doing these days? Is he still in hot water, or is he out of hot water?
Semi-hot seat. He was on before the controversy, so he is not trending for the first third time repeat, but he could be back.
I love Jungle. He came to my birthday many years ago, and it was like he's just so in his own world.
He's special. He is special. All right. Well, we've covered on the first podcast. We did a lot. I don't want to repeat too much, but I do want to give a little background. We had you were a guest cameo. Actually, technically third time appearance. You were on with Malika the other day, who's from Iran, also a magician, poker player. Has some similarity there. We had fun. Tell us a little about your background and where you came from. I believe you moved from Iran when you were 9 years old. Is that right?
Yes, I believe I was 8 or 9. I was born in Iran. My father eventually was able to move us to America. You know, it took a lot of work. It's not easy to move from Iran to America, especially back then, and especially today, obviously. But somehow he managed to pull it off, and we came to America with hopes of a better life. And I think it worked out okay. I'm very happy. I'm very happy that he made the move and he made all the sacrifices that he did for us. It takes a lot to give up everything, all your friends, all your money to go and start a brand new life just for your kids.
Well, I have so much love for your dad, bro, Bijan. And I will say, obviously he had a little more. He was a little more of a go-getter then, because now he plays 1-2 pretty snug. He's not going to bluff too much, but he made some power moves, and for sure to pick up move like you're mentioning. Pretty unbelievable for him to have that foresight and do that.
He's the only person I know that plays more snug than you, PBF.
I teed it up. I didn't think you'd take it. I didn't think you'd do it. I'm actually loosening the clip a little bit. You've been out of the streets for a while. We'll have to battle again soon. Yeah, I wanted to ask you though, what was it like? Do you remember? Because in Iran at that time, like it's a beautiful country, I'm told. But what do you remember before you left? Like up till you were 9? Did you?
I don't have the best of memories, to be honest. And I don't want to sit here and cry me a river, but my parents didn't get along, so that wasn't fun as a young child. We were at war with Iraq, and so you have to imagine you're a young kid, and there's bombs going off down the street, and you're going to go in the basement and hope that the bomb doesn't hit your house, and then the next day you wake up and sometimes there's a building, 2 blocks away that got completely obliterated. So not the best memories, to be honest. I was pretty happy when we came here, but it was also tough coming here because I didn't have any friends. I didn't speak English. So, imagine my first day in school, 3rd grade. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know I knew how to say hello, and that's it. But, you just kind of get through it, and you learn, you grow up. Start life, meet PBF, and then it's all uphill after that.
A lot of good things have happened. We've had some good years. I definitely want to cover some of the travel adventure. Now we got kids and families, and there's a little less travel and time, and obviously COVID's crazy. Real quick, how is COVID in your specific area? How has it impacted you in the last 4 months in terms of lifestyle? Changes, any habits or any stuff you've really gotten to focus on or do more of that you weren't, like any just overall COVID? How's it been for you?
I would say that I was really fortunate in that I got a lot of time with my kids, but all of a sudden I was in the spot where it was 24/7 basically every day, which was amazing. And we're pretty close to the ocean, and so we just go on bike rides, we hang out in the water, and we really make the best of it. And it's been incredible. I just love the time with them. Haven't really been playing much poker. Just been hanging out with my kids, and it's been awesome. I'm kind of like the stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, I would say it's. I mean, the past few years you haven't been traveling quite as much for tournaments and whatnot, but definitely it does park you and get more time. How is it in terms of in the area? Is it people wearing masks? Is it restaurants open, or what's the actual
restaurant? Outdoor seating is open, but inside restaurants are closed. There's people out and about all over the place, but everybody's wearing masks and everybody's a bit on the edge. I went to the seafood market the other day, and I was peeking in to see how big the line inside was, and everybody has their little 6 feet marker where you're supposed to stand, which I totally get and I respect. And I had my mask on, but I stepped maybe 1.5 feet in the direction of someone else to peek in. I didn't even realize they were there, and she was like, "Excuse me," kind of like stay in your lane. I'm like, "Ooh, all right, take it easy." I'm wearing my mask. It's all good. Yeah. People are a little bit on edge, PBS.
It's tricky. It's sort of politics, Democrat, Republican. It's like you're either really, I feel you're strongly with the mask and the whole deal, or you kind of think it's like a little over the top. So it's kind of a weird spot because people really have strong beliefs on either side generally.
Can I just give my 2 cents? I believe that both sides are blowing this way out of proportion.
Yeah.
Obviously I don't want to get COVID, but I wouldn't be worried for myself. I would be worried to get it and give it to my father or someone who is at more risk.
Right.
And then, a lot of the people on the right are just basically saying that there's nothing and we shouldn't be worried about it. And this whole thing is completely blown out of proportion, which I do believe it is to a certain extent. But I also do believe there's a real threat there, and we should avoid getting COVID if possible. And that we as a society really do need to come together to try and kick this thing in the butt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. I'm with you on that. I think it's somewhere in the middle, or somewhere not even in the middle. Just the extremes are very extreme, and it's confusing because you get a lot of information.
Don't watch cable news and you'll be okay.
Yeah, well, good. So I'm safe. We're all set. But I definitely, it's interesting to hear you say how that impacts you, and kind of I think differently for people that kind of travel or very, very busy, maybe that are on the road a lot or doing other things. It's almost nice to have that refresher to be with family and just stay there and get focused. Any new habits? Any new thing you've picked up? You speak any new languages? You playing violin? Like what? Any new hobbies or just kids?
No, I mean Joseph is how old now?
15 months.
15 months. So he's on the brink of giving you a return on your investment, right? So the first 2 years are cool, but they're not like, you don't know how good it gets after 2, basically, is when the light bulbs really turn on. And so my kids are in that prime, just dad is hero, want to play every game imaginable. I can do no wrong. And they're up for anything. And so, the last few months, it really isn't about me. It's about waking up. I take them almost every morning for breakfast. We go to the beach. We go run around the grass, 2.5 hours every morning, just them 2 and me. And it's been so incredible. Yeah, so I don't really have any new hobbies, but a lot of new games with them.
Very nice. And what's that age group now? What's like the go-to game? Trouble, Go Fish, Monopoly. What are kids playing right now at this age these days?
I'm more of an outdoors adventure guy, and mom is more of like things in the house. I like to just go take the Frisbee, take the football, and just go run around and take their little scooters and do all sorts of things outside. In the house, wifey's much better than I am for sure.
Makes a lot of sense. Very, very nice. So let's dive back a bit into poker and talk about your career. Now you play a lot less. Is it safe to say, are you pretty much out of tournaments? I mean, we saw the duel. I got to bring it up. Hellmuth and you are 2 of the pillars of poker. I'd say you're one of the 4 or 5 guys you could put in that pillar. I would say historically you've gotten the way better of Hellmuth, just in terms of interactions, big spots, TV televised, like definitely a needle in his side for the most part. So, there was a duel. We saw it. I caught part of it. I actually put a little wager on you. I got to shout out Steak Kings because we both are involved with the company. And I think you actually have some more on here right now because there's a rematch. Is that right? It looks like I am going to actually – I'm gonna fire on you because I gotta say sorry. I love Phil, but I bet on you. Yeah, I'm gonna make.
Look, it's heads up. By the end, I did make 2 mistakes in the match, 2 big ones. One is I laid down trips, but it's one of those spots where I'm literally only beating a bluff. And Phil, I hate to say it, is pretty nitty. So I just gave him more credit than I should have. And then there was a hand where I should have called him with ace high, and I didn't because I was running out of time banks, and I just lost. I actually didn't think he could play a hand so bad, where he just check called with a 7 high flush draw twice and then just let on the river into me. I'm like, he can't actually play this bad, and my time was running out, and I just mucked the ace high where I would normally almost always call in that spot.
Yeah.
And then in the end, I mean, it just really came down to a flip, but I accept responsibility for my defeat. There's no way that I should have lost, but I did.
Well, I just tried to bet on you, but it says I'm negative 4K. That's because I just hit a bink on Stake Kings, and people had a piece. So I can't bet on you in the moment. I'm gonna bet on you. We're in the.
They cap your credit at 4K.
No, I mean, listen, I can call it in. I'm just saying, in the cashier right now, I technically owe money.
I would give you more credit, PBF.
Yeah, I think you might give a couple more than that. I'm gonna send a text as we speak. I got to get it while we're live in the show. I gotta say about competitiveness of it. Was that the duel though? It looked cool. I mean, from a poker production standpoint, it looked nice.
The banter back and forth was awesome. There was a time when Phil tried to call me high maintenance, and we had this whole verbal battle basically because he's pretty high maintenance himself. And it was fun. It was just a great match. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think that they probably picked 2 of the better guys to get the show off the ground. I think that Daniel and Doug is going to be great to watch as well. Yeah. But as far as like verbal abuse and banter and whatnot, I think that Phil and I were pretty.
No, no one's going to argue. I mean, the names you mentioned right there, it's like there's no question over the history of TV. You and Phil definitely do different types and forms of engagement, but you get a room talking, you get people chatting, and it's always fun with you guys. So no, that was really well done. Speaking of Daniel and Doug, what do you make of this? Did you catch the video before it got pulled down? I might even did you see the video Doug made? I mean, it was pretty intense.
I did see it. I saw it once. I didn't give it much thought because I don't really know the drama of poker.
Right.
But I assumed it was some sort of a goof. I hear there's some actual beef between them. I don't know if that's true or not. Is that the case? I mean, if they happen to be at the same dinner, are they having a, hey, what's up kind of thing? Or is it like sit on the other side of the table? What's going on?
They genuinely do not like each other. I mean, this is almost like I thought a boxing match would be more appropriate, right? That seems to be what people do these days when they want to settle. Or
you can't put Daniel in against Doug. Doug is much bigger, and Daniel's a vegan. I mean, vegans can't get in the ring. No offense. was just a straight poke at Daniel. We always have a back and forth. No, I respect the guy, but I think Daniel's just much smaller than Doug, isn't he?
Yeah, no, they'd be different. It'd be different weight classes. It'd be different. It would be a different deal. But the heads up is
who wants to fight someone that's smaller than them? That's not right.
That is not right unless you take it over to your Instagram. And actually, one of your latest posts was a reliving on that, where you box Mr. Kevin Hart, who's a friend of yours. I know you guys battle on the tables at times, and then here, we're kind of jumping all over the place, but I know we're on limited time in general, and there's a lot to cover. So I do want to. Speaking of boxing, what happened here? Can you explain this? We actually did our podcast just before this, and I saw you training. This was February, Necker Island. We did our.
Remember we were running.
We were running. I saw you. You were dusting me on hills, and I played soccer. I feel like I have good cardio, and you were in shape. I definitely thought the odds were crazy. The long shot you were. It was 30-1, 35-1 odds on a back.
35-1. We went in February, and so I was 2.5 months in my training already. And so my cardio went from literally -100 to, at the time, I was probably like a 35. One of the main reasons why I took the bet is because my cardio has always been really bad. And I know that I'm getting older, and for my heart and my arteries and all that, I should be doing a lot more cardio. So I was one of the extra benefits of taking the bet. But essentially it started with me. I walked into a room. I had taken this boxing training class that day. I get to the poker game, Kevin's there, and I'm doing like one of these things, and he starts laughing at me. And, he basically said, anytime, anywhere, any amount, I'll give you 35-1. And I didn't take the bet right away because I didn't think I had a chance in hell, and everybody told me not to do it. But A few days went by. I kept thinking about it, spoke to the wife, and she wasn't on board really either. But I really wanted to get in shape. And I know that in boxing, size and reach go a long way.
Yeah.
I'm not Mr. Athletic, but I got weight on him and I got reach on him. So with the right training, I can at least go 3 rounds without getting knocked out. And that was really my plan, was to get in the ring, not get knocked out, because he talked so much crap about how he was going to just knock me out, and be able to tell my kids that, look, I did this, and I spent 7 months of my life and I dedicated it to training. I didn't drink. I was a machine. And I just wanted to set a good example for them. I didn't really think I could win, to be honest. The only person in the entire room when the match happened that thought that I could win was my trainer, Audley Harrison.
Audley, shout out to the man. I love Audley. What a great guy. That's amazing.
He was an incredible trainer. He found a sparring partner for me who was literally a replica of Kevin size-wise. And he was an Olympic boxer. This guy was such a machine. I couldn't believe how fast he was. I mean, I just couldn't do anything. If I ever wanted to land a punch on him, he essentially would have to let me. And I got in the ring and sparred with that guy so many times and got my butt kicked so hard. But, you know, if you put in the work and you practice, you're going to get over the fear and you're going to learn. And if I didn't have that sparring practice and I got in the ring to fight, I would have crapped my pants right away. But because of all that experience, because I got hit so many times in the face, in my abs, in my arms, I wasn't scared to get in. But even
if you had started that day, if you had boxed Kevin that day when you made the bet, he would have smoked you, though, right?
I would have 0%.
0. Okay.
I didn't. And just for the record, I didn't learn how to box. I learned how to beat a little guy. You know what I mean? I didn't do any of the ducking, or I didn't take time to learn any of that. I literally learned, if you're going to fight someone that's smaller than you, when he comes close and you got to put your weight on him, he's going to struggle to get out and he's going to tire himself out. Keep going around, keep jabbing him. Don't go for the knockout because you're not strong enough to knock him out, and just tire him out. And that's the way Audley told me the fight was going to go down is exactly how it went down. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, it's working. In the middle, towards the beginning of the round 2, I realized, oh my gosh, I could actually win this fight, because I saw he was so gassed. And for people that don't box, you have no idea how hard it is to go 3 minutes, 3 rounds. I mean, after 45 seconds, you're exhausted. And you have to go the entire time, and you really have to learn how to conserve your energy, because if you don't, you have no chance. You're just toast.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think to Kevin is, we see him, he's an athlete sponsored with Nike. He has a great trainer. He's very hard worker, but he's a very busy guy. And, you know, it's very different to throw punches and be in good shape and work out than to train. He probably wasn't training for boxing. So,
first of all, Kevin's a beast.
Yeah.
I mean, if he trained the same amount as I did, I don't think I'd have a chance in hell. But he's filming movies. He literally just finished filming Jumanji in Hawaii, flew in, fought me the next morning. He's also a machine. He can drink. He can stay up late. He doesn't care about sleep. I mean, he just didn't take it very seriously because he didn't think that I would have a chance. Right. And so he keeps saying, let's go again, let's go again. And I think that if we went another time, you know, if he really wanted to, he could probably get me pretty good. And, you know, I walked away with this intact. So I kind of don't want to risk it.
Yeah, he exactly. There's not a lot to, and he probably wouldn't let you 35-1, right? It would be like 1-1 or 2.
You would be surprised.
Real interesting. Okay.
We had the discussion, and he has made an offer to fight, but the very next day, you know, and he's just a machine overall. I feel like I need to be mentally prepared, train, get myself really ready to go. I feel like off the cuff, he could probably smack me around. And look, we're good buddies. We hang out a decent amount of time, and I love that I get to verbally abuse him, especially in front of his friends.
Right.
So
yeah, that's a tough one to swallow.
If I get in the ring and lose, now I don't have that anymore. And it's kind of nice to have that over the guy, because I'm a skinny Persian and he's a tough guy from Philadelphia. I mean, he's like a, you know, there's who would ever think in a million years that I would beat him? No one.
Yeah. You can add that. I could have put boxer on your the card today. That could have been on there as well because you do have that now. You're a magician, boxer, poker
Undefeated
player,
boxer. Big difference.
undefeated. Yeah, it's not bad. We had
I don't know.
that's very strong. It's a good record. Let's keep it that way. Speaking of poker tournaments, you did happen to win the largest ever at the time. It's changed a bit. You were number one in the all-time money list for a decent bit. I remember at Playground Poker when that passed and they unveiled it, and they, at the time that was tough to see. You go 1-2, and then from there you basically have you've thrown in the towel on the tournament circuit series. You just haven't been playing as much for obvious reasons, family and otherwise, being busy. Tell me a little bit about.
Hold on, real quick. Am I 15th now?
I think you're 15. Let's take a look at that.
How fast did that go?
That was maybe 14 or 13 or 15 or maybe even longer. You had it for a while, 56 million. Yeah, you got nowadays. Oh, there's 20. They're handing out the Triton million, right? It's like you just get back in, you could be right back at the top with a good 3-day period. But yeah, the high rollers are kind of crazy these days. Tell me a bit about tournament poker. Do you enjoy that? Let's just take away kids' time. Would you rather play a high stakes cash game for it where you could win a couple million, or would you rather play a 1 day?
I'd rather play a cash game all day. I think cash games are so much more fun. They're not as serious. You can have some cocktails. You can have a good poke. You can have a good time. It's just way more entertaining. And if you have a bad night, you have a bad night. If you have a great night, great night. But the tournaments, I feel like the reward is so pure, but it's so hard to actually achieve it. You know what I mean? So you have to try so many times to get that one amazing feeling. In a cash game, it's just less stressful. It's more fun, and you don't have to you don't really have to play with people you don't want to play with. In a tournament, you don't have a choice. I sit down and there's 7 wizards having a stare contest, taking 5 minutes per hand. I don't have a choice. I'm forced to be in that situation. And honestly, I just have way better things to do in my life than be there.
I want to.
They even run this fish out,
That's I get it.
They run this fish out. Imagine the business people they run out.
It's crazy. It's actually crazy.
I don't get
it. Speaking of timing and phases of life, we Bill Perkins, one of our very dear friends, just released Die with Zero. What's that?
The GOAT.
Yeah, gotta respect Bill. I mean, he's really.
They've been gone for a month and a half or something.
I was gonna say it feels backwards. Tony, one of our good friends, your best friend, Bill and him have met. They're friendly as well. But Tony's running around on yacht. We're at home with the kids. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's different. That's not a kid vacation though. That's a little. What's that?
You got to give Perkins credit because he actually does what he preaches.
He really does. I mean, there's no one can call him. Can't say he's not doing it. He's living it. He is living the book. Where I know it's strong. It's very strong. Well, I want to talk about pockets on that. So talking about different phases of your life and how things change, because I remember a few years ago we were running around. There was a year or two period where we were going to Montreal. We were in Turkey playing some cash. We were in Cyprus. We're doing trips, and then things change so quickly. And hopefully we'll circle back and hit the family vacation circuit. I hope in a few years when kids are a little older. But now tell me a bit about pockets in your life, and do you have looking back, is there any advice you would give to people? Because you've done a lot. You actually started partying, as you said, later, right? You didn't start like when you were 21. You started, I believe,
late 20s. I started partying.
So you were kind of late. But is there any regrets or things that you thinking now? Because all right, now I have kids. Now this is that. I wish I had done this a little differently, or do you kind of think you nailed it?
Zero. I think I nailed it because I got all my partying, all my debauchery, all the things, a lot of traveling. Sure, there's a gazillion other places I would have loved to have seen, but I think that for your average individual, I traveled quite a bit. I got to have some incredible experiences, and everyone always says that when you get a family and you have kids, you got to hunker down. And it's not so much that I have to hunker down. I mean, if I wanted to go on a trip with my buddies, I could. But the truth of it is, I don't want to leave my kids. I have more fun hanging out with my kids doing nothing than anything else I could imagine. For instance, this trip that Perkins is on for a month and a half. Would I like to go on a yacht and go to all these amazing places in Europe and have the time of my life? Of course I would. But am I just as happy, if not happier, sitting at home with my kids? Yeah. I am.
Yeah, and maybe you hit that at the 50, your 40th was quite a party. Maybe your 50th is that, or different parts of your life. It's just different times. I think that's important to understand and accept and realize. We've done a lot of.
I knew that when I was younger, in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was partying mostly in Vegas. I was out every single night, 4 or 5 nights a week for, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years. I knew that someday that period would come to an end, and I wanted to capitalize on it as much as I could and create what Bill Perkins likes to call memory dividends, because I can't create those anymore. The idea of me going to a nightclub right now is like, oh my gosh, I got to go out, stay up past midnight, wake up with a hangover, not take my kids to breakfast. The ripple effect is through the roof. It's not even an option for me anymore. If I'm with my kids, the idea of going out, it's like 0%. But if let's say I'm in some other place and a few friends are going out and I don't have to wake up in the morning, sure, I would consider maybe going out for some drinks. But even then, the drinks, they hurt. The hangovers are so bad. Plus, I really like working out. I've been pretty healthy. Yeah. So any droplet of alcohol is just ugh.
Yeah, it takes you out of the routine for sure. I mean, Bill refers to it as Tetris, which I love that too, because it's just like you get blocks and spots and it's time to do stuff, and then it's not. So for sure. Wow. Interesting. Very, very interesting. What would you say to you to date? I know Burning Man didn't happen this year. Is this the first year? Did you have don't you have some like 10-year bets? That doesn't count if it doesn't happen, obviously, right? Or
we haven't discussed it, but I mean, if Burning Man doesn't happen, I'm assuming it just gets extended. I would obviously give the person the same courtesy. It's out of my hands if Burning Man doesn't happen.
Right.
I'm very bummed about Burning Man because it's going to be in a couple of weeks, and it's the one thing. It's the one thing. There's two things that I told the wife when we first started dating that are non-negotiable. Number one was Burning Man. Every year, no matter what, I'm going to Burning Man. And I made sure that timing-wise, our second child wasn't going to be born during the week of Burning Man, because then I could never go to Burning Man because I could never miss his birthday. Right. So Burning Man is a pretty big part of who I am, because for me, when I go there, it's an opportunity for me to kind of reset, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like to recalibrate and get a fresh outlook, a new start, and get back in life. So this year, unfortunately, I'm pretty sad it's not going to happen. But a few of my buddies and I are going to go and have our own little adventure that weekend that Burning Man was going to happen. Won't be quite the same, but we will have some deep thoughts.
I get it. That makes sense. It's good to go deep and recheck, recalibrate. Yes, I agree. Right. And is that safe to say? Burning Man, though, what else would you what other kind of experiences in your life would you say is that powerful, or does that still take the cake as one of the most, if not the most, in terms of enjoyable and just release times for you? Is there anything else that you would put up there?
No, as far as fun and therapeutic, I would say that that was number one. There are some others, obviously, that I don't really want to discuss on a recorded show, but
yeah, you've had some, but it's you would recommend it. You would recommend Burning Man, and you do bet. You actually got me. I mean,
you met your wife there.
Yeah, it's true. Jay, I got exactly. That was I got to thank you for a lot. I have to say, I had a lot of the best experiences I've had. You've definitely pointed, gone the right way, pointing me in the right direction, and Burning Man, you definitely got spot on.
Does everybody know what PBF stands for?
I don't know. It says that on your name tag. Is that, I don't know if that's just for today.
And before you were never available, you were always available, and you were a professional best friend. And that's what PBF stands for. Now that you're hitched and I'm hitched, the PBF days are basically over. We're lucky to get, how much time do we get? A year.
We have to do podcasts now for a phone call.
It's so sad, but it just is the way it is. That's the way life works.
How do you find? First of all, that's not true, because this is a pocket. This is a window. Once I'm telling you,
live in Miami, you're married with a kid. I live far away, also married with 2 kids. So our opportunity to hang out is just not as much or as frequent.
Yeah, we share a condo in Vegas. I go to LA.
Last time I saw you at the condo?
It's COVID is a tricky thing.
Hey,
It's been a while, but yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So anyway, Burning Man's great. We recommend it. Antonio endorses it. I endorse it. You guys should check it out in the next one. Hopefully it's next year. Who knows what's going on with that? I want to say about pockets, Phil Locke, the great Phil Locke. I got the show I Bet You here, and there it is. He actually gets they announce him first. That they give Phil the nod on the lead on
show. I mean,
there you go. So that makes sense.
To get announced first.
I know. I'm just reading out loud. I get it. No fair. it's fine. I don't even know if that matters.
I was the sidekick. I mean, I'm not afraid to.
Well, there's different sidekick periods of your life. Your PBF sidekick on today, and then you were Locke. Someday you'll get the lead. Tell me about this show. How fun was this? Was it as fun as it looked? Was this like legitimately at the time when you did this? Was it like, wow, like this is a cool idea, whatever? When you were doing it, did it feel like this had, because there was a third season never released? Is that right?
Never aired. Yeah, it's sitting on some shelf somewhere. I wish somebody would buy it and release it.
How much, like, was this? I mean, in terms of this though, did you think that this was this like in your mind when you were making it? Did you think this was going to be something long term? Was it just for fun? What was like the overall result of this? Did they pay you guys per show? Like, what was the deal?
Of course they paid us. Nobody works for free, PBF.
I don't know what happened. I assume so. That's what I'm asking you. What was going on? Tell me a little
bit. We got
about
paid, and our director was Tom Hinkle, and we had a blast. I mean, what did two degenerate buddies want to do besides walk around and gamble on everything and get paid to do it and be on TV? I mean, it was awesome. It was super fun. We never actually thought it was going to happen, but somehow some guy made it happen and put it on TV.
And I just remember one that stands out for me in terms of the sperm count bet, which was pretty fascinating, creative to come up with. And Phil, I think, had some of the most in the world, potent or something
468 million per load, if I remember correctly.
Which is, I hate to say, it hurts so much that Phil doesn't currently have a child because he's the greatest. Like to not have a mini lock seems like a waste, but I that's the wrong word. But who knows? Phil nothing would surprise me. Phil could still one day, something could happen.
But his days of they're so happy in their little bubble that I just don't see a kid in their future. Which, look, if you're happy, you're happy.
No, for sure. Phil and JT
I wish Phil had a kid, but Phil, what can we do?
We can't. There's nothing.
I
don't know, man. He's one of those guys. I don't think he's got a range. I don't think you can peg him into a time period. I think him and JT they could surprise us. They could have frozen things. They could do stuff. Anyway, what's your favorite I Bet You episode? What was the favorite one you enjoyed to do? Most fun, most value, or most exciting?
I think my favorite single moment was when we were panhandling in Venice Beach, and it was who could get more money in, I believe we had 10 or 15 minutes acting as a homeless person, basically.
Right.
And we had this little quadrant that we couldn't step out of. We had to be in the same space. We couldn't run after people. It was kind of like as people were walking by.
Right.
And I'll never forget, Phil is asking this guy for money. This guy reaches out of his pocket, grabs some change, has the change in his hand, but he's now walked past the area in which Phil can cross.
Mm-hmm.
So he's about to give Phil money, but Phil won't step to the guy because that money won't count if he crosses the line. And the guy is very confused because he's giving Phil money, but Phil doesn't want to take the extra 2 steps that he needs. He wants the guy to go back.
Right.
And I just started laughing so hard because this guy's giving Phil money, but Phil can't go collect it. And eventually he convinces the guy to come back and give him the money. It was so comical. You had to be there.
Who won the bet?
I actually won that one.
I would have assumed that. It's sort of the magician and you's got to be able to just come out and handle that.
Yeah. And then there's one other one which never got aired in season 3. We did like a wrestling one. And in wrestling, I was taught that day, you're allowed to kind of slap your opponent a little bit. And we were doing this little wrestle thing, and I just went bam, and I smacked him one. It never aired. He was so pissed. I wanted to see it so bad, but it never aired.
Man, that's good times. That is fun. I gotta go back. I think those are on YouTube maybe, or there's somewhere you can definitely still see those. What's your favorite out of all the trips, all the traveling? give me one of your all times. You know, we've definitely had a handful. I would.
I think Istanbul with you was up there with the Turks.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of fun. You know, just anytime you travel with your buddies and you're gambling and hanging out at night and drinking. I mean,
yeah, it's
good. That's the best.
Yeah, it is. There's it's hard to really understand, I think, how the pockets and windows change so quickly. But no, for sure, there's some great times. What about the tournament? Tell me. I get the 18 million has to be. It's just the whole feeling. We did cover this on the last podcast you had, but what it was the 1.4? That was you have the nickname. You got the 44K Kid 44, right? That's why you turned 44K. I think it was even in some of your emails at one point. Kid 44, you know, whatever. And people call you that. Was that the one that really got you going, or did you already have a bankroll there?
I mean, I had a very small bankroll. That was the tournament where I took third, but I abused Phil Hellmuth on television on one of the first World Poker Tour shows. And
this was the main event. This was for a WPT title.
It was a WPT. I took third, but I busted Hellmuth, and I also just abused him. And that was basically what kind of started my career, because I was the kid that punished Phil. And then, of course, I got pretty lucky to win the WPT in LA a little while later, and that was really what kind of put me on the map.
And tell me, refresh us on that story. This 1.4 million, wasn't it something crazy, like you were playing a cash game? Didn't you lose, or you didn't have a lot of money and you went broke, or you got busted?
My net worth was about 60. I had a 60K bankroll, I believe.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. And the night before the tournament started, I played this cash game and I lost over 30. So now I'm down to like 20 something, and I plunked down 10 to play in this poker tournament. So I'm in pretty bad shape. But of course, sometimes, once in a while, the kid runs good. This was the time to run good.
So you had 100% of yourself, or a big piece of yourself in that?
I had a big piece of myself. But when we got down to the final 27, Gus Hansen paid a pretty good premium to buy 10% of me, if I remember correctly.
Interesting. Wow. So right when you hit the money, I mean, it's just so crazy the payouts, especially back then, the difference between like first and third. And do you remember that heads up? Like, did you have a chip lead? How was?
I had a chip lead, and I mean, I think we both played pretty bad. But Vinny Vin played one hand just atrociously, where he just decided to go for this kamikaze all-in absurd bluff when I had pocket aces. And I actually made a pretty big mistake in standing up and early celebrating with the aces. You know, it could have gone wrong.
This was pre-flop. It got all in
pre-flop. He had a monster stack, and I had a monster stack, but I had him covered. And I just open raised, and he just shoved all in. Like, if this happened today, everybody would lose their mind over it. Okay,
that's what did he have? King 10 or something?
He had Jack 4 offsuit, I think.
He just ripped like 50 or like some crazy amount of blinds.
Absurd number. I don't even, back then we didn't count big blinds. I still don't count big blinds, So It was a pretty big number. And I stood up and I held the aces as if it was over. Of course, there's still 5 cards to come, but he blanked out, and I won the tournament.
Wow. And so what again, 1.4 million, your roll is on the line essentially. I mean, it's crazy. Like, give me a little thought into your mindset, because this is something we talk about, clear intention. You know, you and I have done some work. We've worked on stuff, personal development courses, other different things. Is there something you believe in, like energy or focus and like when you win the one drop for 18 million, when you win this tournament and your back's against the wall? Because let's be honest, there's a lot of times where I know I can say myself, I'm sure you too, over the years, I can say, I know for you as well, where you go to a tournament and you're just kind of, you're in there. You got stuff. There's a dinner tonight. There's something going on. You're in a tournament. You're late, Reggie. You're not giving your 100, right? But like when you're in there and at your best, like what do you find? There's times in your career where you've gone in and just know you need to win or lock in.
Definitely makes a difference. I think that you really believe you can win, and if you're going to get there in certain hands and whatnot. I mean, I know that statistically and mathematically, it doesn't really make a difference. But, you know, with the one drop, I mean, I really, 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 truly in my heart and soul believed I was going to win. Now, if it didn't come true, am I going to sit here and talk about how I knew I was going to win? No, of course not. It happened to be true. I think that it's a free roll to believe it, right? There's nothing to lose and maybe something to gain. When I got all in with Guy and with the ace king and he had the queens and the flop didn't come with a ace or a king, I swear I was like, no big deal. I know it's coming on the turn or the river. I thought it was going to be a river deal, but solved it right on the turn, which is way better than the river.
And explain again about this one drop too, because this was something where you were not going to play or you didn't really have it on your radar. Like I believe like days before.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, like days before you were basically.
I just didn't want to deal with asking people if they want to buy a piece with these big numbers. You know, it wasn't, I don't like to, I was never backed or I didn't really have stakers or anything like that. That wasn't really my deal. And I just didn't want to try and sell pieces of me for all this big these big numbers. Plus ESPN asked me the commentary and I was like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to commentate on the biggest tournament ever. Yeah. And then it was really one of my friends who I owe everything to, who said, hey, he just sent me a text, are you going to play the one drop? Because I want to buy 20%. And I said, you want to buy 20%? 200 grand? Seriously? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I will play. So I sent out a few messages. And within a few hours, I was like, oh, okay, no problem. And that's how I basically played the tournament.
And tell me, 2012, like obviously now poker's different. There's solvers, there's this. It's kind of crazy. The tournament scene's a bit different than it used to be. In 2012, though, at what point, where did you believe this tournament's unique, right? Businessmen, value for sure, regardless, some of the best tournament players in the world. Where do you actually believe your skill level at this period of time was? Because, you know, you're different in terms of people being able to read the live. You really do exude that live pro, like you have experience and all that. But where did you feel like your chances in terms of matching up with the best wizards, sorcerers, tournament players in the world were? How did you feel like you stacked up in that?
I was pretty confident because, you know, first of all, you could always get a good table draw. I didn't know who I was going to be at a table with. My first day was the table of death. It was the worst table in the history of poker. But look, at the end of the day, you're going to have to play with the wizard. So you can fear them or you can just say, you know what, let's go. And my mentality against them is that I don't care as much. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense. So it's kind of like, you catch me on a big bluff, great, more power to you. I don't think that I would do well at a table full of wizards at all. I know my skills, and it's hard to be a good live player or reader, however you want to call it, if you're playing with 7 robotic players that literally have spent hours and hours doing the same exact thing whenever they bet and taking the same amount of time. And, you know, you can't really get a read on those guys. And they're just so good. They've broken down every single hand in every situation.
Right.
And there's not a lot you can do against that. Yeah. So, again, I just have better things to do. I'm not interested in trying to be the best. I never once thought I was the best player in the world, and I never had any intention to try and be the best player in the world. I'm just trying to survive, PBF.
Trying to survive, trying to be in a game where maybe you got to be able to beat the game you're playing at hand. And like you mentioned, cash games, that's a little easier to handcraft than sitting in some of these tournaments. What interest do you have? What do we expect post-COVID tournament circuit? Are we getting you for the World Series main event? Some of the dual heads up, like what type of tournament?
I like the Poker Go stuff. Some cash games on Poker Go. I think they do an amazing job. I like the heads up duel was awesome. I will definitely play the main event. You know, I'll play the tournaments that are easy in Vegas that are a quick couple days here and there. But, you know, the days of me flying overseas to go to a poker tournament are few and far in between.
But let me ask you about that, though. Let's take Cyprus or let's take Playground, which, you know, we obviously love and been to so many times. I think Playground is, it's actually maybe the first year they haven't gone. Won't go to Montreal most likely at this point. what about like family vacation? Do you just not see, because a lot of the poker stops, they can be fun or whatnot to go on for a bit, but they're not really conducive necessarily to families. But what about some events? Would you take the family, go to like Bahamas for an event, go down there, play and do like a week thing and do some stuff like that? Like, is that
sure. That sounds like fun. But my kids are at the age now where they're a little bit older and they would have a blast at the Bahamas. But it'd be hard to play poker when I just want to be in the pool with them all day. So, but yeah, no, I think I would do Bahamas or somewhere where they could have a great time. But I just don't want to leave them for a week to go play poker. If they can go with me and the wife is cool with it, then yeah, we would consider it. We just like our little bubble at home too. You know, we got the bikes and we're riding around town and we got our whole little setup here. So it's hard to leave.
I think when you start talking about with kids, it just the whole product, everything is something, right? You gotta plan the food. Is it safe? Is this room okay? What's going on? Are you bringing who? So it's a bit crazy. Show me this picture. Walk me through this. I think I either took it or Dave did, but I was there. I know where that was. That was in London right after the Olympics. What's going on here? So you're on the cover of Bluff. He's holding that pretty nice, sharp. You're in a suit. He's in his birthday suit. What was happening here?
Wow, look at how young we were. This is right after I won the tournament and right after Mike had won all of his last gold medals at the last Olympics we were at. And I think we were playing poker and we were on our way to the Maldives, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Both our magazines were kind of lingering around, and I don't know whose idea it was for this picture, but it was a pretty cool pic. And, you know, obviously I'm glad we took it. And then I just stumbled upon this picture. I don't know when I posted this, a year ago or something. Anyway. And I never posted it back in the day. I have so many amazing pictures that I never post because I just forget, or I kind of, you know, I'm not great with social media.
I know.
I wish I was a little bit better.
I think you're at this point, it's maybe past your I guess it's not the word. You just don't really the time and effort. It wouldn't hurt you. It would be maybe worth it to have someone go through. You should shift your photos, ship them to someone, and let them kind of come up, because I'm sure you got some amazing.
Someone is getting all my photos.
Not all of them. Maybe you could handcraft.
Go through and find the good ones. You know.
Yeah. Fair enough. I'm just saying it is there's a lot of good memories, man. Photos are great. I think people sort of realize after a while that it is nice to have. It's good to have memories. In the moment, it's a bit annoying to take photos, but it is nice to look back. What would you say is, if you weren't doing poker, what is there anything interesting that you see yourself doing in the future? Because you are playing less poker. You know, you play some home games, you play some cash now and again. What about future stuff, investments, sport, like anything that really like, man, I kind of want to get into? Or are you just sort of in a phase where you're just kind of taking where
I'm always open to new opportunity, but I don't try and be an expert in a field where I don't know anything about. So I have people that are experts in these kind of things, and anytime I get involved in something, they're always a part of it, and I check with multiple different parties and whatnot if there's any involvement for me, and et cetera, et cetera. Me on a personal level, am I going to take the time to be involved in a new craft? Not right now, because right now my time is with my kids. And so that's just the way it works. Before you have kids, your life is about what is going to make you happy, what's going to create the best life for you. Once you have kids, it's no longer what's going to make me happy. It is what's going to make my kids the happiest, and therefore, as a result, I will be the happiest, because I'm happy when my kids are happy. And so it's really about creating fun for them.
Yeah, for sure. What is the do they give you a hard time at this age if you go away for a few days, or like before COVID, well, they give you a tough time, or do they understand it's work?
So before COVID, I used to leave for certain trips. I'd have to go to Vegas or Montreal, or, you know, a few trips here and there. We have a couple guys trips a year, which I used to do because I believe it's important to always live your life to some degree. But I would leave maybe an average of 5-6 days total in a month, which is okay. Since COVID, I've been home basically every single day, and I had to go to Vegas for the duel. Mm-hmm. And boy, let me tell you, leaving was an ordeal. My kids are so attached to me. I feel so loved by them that I did not want to leave. And so now I'm dreading anytime I'm going to have to leave in the future because we're so close right now.
I think that's to your point, though. It's important to have some breaks or just some time. You know, your wife, our wives, to have some time with their girlfriends or with your guy friends, because if you always are like that, you can really get trained to the point, like you're saying, it's just like hard, almost like where if you leave for a second, it's like, you know, the end of the world or everything stops. So I mean, although that's nice, it's also good to have balance and create that sort of space and thing. So yeah, it's that's an interesting point. But so how did that work then? Did you just like, because it is they were basically
there was a lot of crying and don't go da and jumping in the car and all these things, but eventually you got to just plunk them out and drive away because otherwise it's just never going to stop.
And do they watch? Does Noble understand at this point? Is he watching? Like, does he check you on TV a bit?
Yes, he watches. He loves it. I shot him out.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's I guess just quite at the age. All right. Well, I want to make sure we get some time for questions because we have a lot. I think you broke the internet, Antonio. It's the Poker Flow Show podcast, Antonio. The whole thing. The people are fired up. So let's
I'll tell you a funny story because you know I'm not great with social media, as I said, and I saw on my Twitter feed I had all these notifications, and I'm like, what is going on? Anyway, I went and I just opened one and I answered it, right, and then I keep seeing all these questions and I'm like, wait a second, I'm so confused. I finally figured out that they're questions for your show because I almost always answer my questions on Twitter. Yeah. And so I stopped because I'm like, well, I don't want to ruin PBF's question segment.
Yeah, let's see which one
we got. Give me some juicy ones, PBF. Not the boring.
We'll get to that. We'll get to some good ones here. Also, Magic. When is the last time you ever got paid for Magic? When was the first and last? How old were you? And like what period of actual? How much earn did you make in Magic? Like what was your earn?
I was doing pretty good. I was making a few grand a month. But I was a young kid. It was great money at the time. I used to work in a pretty fancy restaurant and hand out. I would do magic tricks for the tables as soon as they were done eating, and I would hand out my business card. And I used to work in this really hot happening Silicon Valley restaurant.
I've been to it.
Burke's. You've been there.
Yeah.
So those were pretty special times looking back. The last time I paid for magic was probably 19 years ago or something.
19 years ago. Wow. I will say the flip for tip is the first I ever saw that was with you asking the waiter if they want to flip for their tip, which is pretty baller. Like if you think about it, it's not normal. Like that's almost never happens, right? Like people just aren't doing that. So that was cool. I forget, we've done it a few times, and I think there's been
the best is when it's a really big bill and you have to give the waiter or waitress the option, and you have to let them know what their tip is in advance. You can say, look, here's 20%. You can take the tip, walk away. Everybody's happy. Or if you want to go for the 40 ball, or sometimes you can even sweeten it a little bit and say 42% or 0 and let them decide. And a lot of times they take it, but they all come together because they're all talking about, you know, because if the bill's big, you're at a nice restaurant, it could be a pretty big swing. So we've had epic flips for tips, and there's almost no one ever, including my wife or my friends, ever rooting for me because they always want the staff to win. But listen, I make it very clear, PBF, that if they gamble and lose, they're gonna get 0. And I think that a lot of people think that in that spot you should still leave a tip, and I highly disagree, and I will have that stance until the day I die.
I agree with you. Yeah, because then if you give them like a rebate,
yeah, well, what is that all about? It's like asking for
you got to make them. You got to really make them feel. That's crazy. There's certain countries that is a standard, but I think that is crazy. I think you should make it 44% since your kid 44 is your nickname. That should be like your thing. Every tip is either 0 or 44.
A lot of juice. It's 20% almost.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. Okay, let's go through it. Let's dive through. We're not going to take all of them. We'll answer some. Maybe he'll come back and pick on the ones that didn't get to. How did you learn your first magic trick? That's interesting. Was it online? Did you see someone do it? Where did you actually learn your first trick?
The first time was I was sitting at a restaurant, And I'll just tell you the quick backstory. Sitting at a restaurant eating lunch with a buddy of mine, and the bartender says, "What's your favorite card?" And he does this trick where the card that I named, the 7 of hearts, he pulled it out, he went through the deck, and the only card face up in the whole deck was the 7 of hearts. I was flabbergasted. My mind was completely blown. And then a few weeks later, I saw this place, the Magic Hat, had just opened up in the Bay Area where I used to live in San Jose. I went to the store. I went to the guy that worked there. I said, "Look, this guy did this trick." And he basically showed me and taught me. I had to buy it. And I learned how to do it. And I started doing that trick for people. And that was it. That was when I was hooked. When I saw the reaction from that, I was instantly hooked. Because I wasn't very popular in high school. So all of a sudden now, people were totally into what I was doing. You know, I wasn't good with the ladies. I was skinny, I had a big nose. So Magic gave me a little bit of confidence. It was a great opener. Terrible closer. Great opener.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, the magic is nice to have. And as you're mentioning, a bartender or someone, a waiter, it is a nice little sweetener. If you definitely can utilize that. So, all right, a little bit of luck there to get on your way for Magic. What do you think about the bracelet events online? First summer, I guess, not in the WSOP probably ever for you since you were 21. Is that true? Like first time you won't be in Vegas at all?
Yeah, first time the World Series. I think that it's the right thing to do. I mean, people want to play. Why not give them a chance to play online? It's unfortunate that not everyone can play. It's unfortunate that our government doesn't allow me to play poker from home, especially when there's quarantine and COVID. It's just so silly. Makes zero sense. And it's just complete nonsense. The idea of being able to attach a bill to another bill to get it through without the proper fight in Congress is absurd. And that's exactly what happened when we got Black Friday. I mean, it's just so absurd. Makes no sense. Things that don't make any sense just really tilt me.
So you won't be flying somewhere to play, though. That's safe to say for an online event.
I'd have to leave my kids to go play online, get a bad beat, and fly home. I'd be miserable. COVID, no shot. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. Fair enough. So, okay, we've answered that. What do you think about? Do you believe from what you're hearing, seeing? Do you believe that there will be legalized poker? Are you in the know at all? Do you hear it talked about amongst your peers?
If it happens, great. If not,
gonna. I mean, let's just say online poker flew up. It was like hot as it was back in the day. You could play from California on all the major sites. Would you play? Like, would you mess around with it a bit, or just you already do your play live and you're not that interested? Like, would that change for you at this point?
I mean, I would check it out and see what's going on, but
see how it's running, see how the cards
probably wouldn't be spending a lot of time on it.
Fair enough. Could you trick wise? Your skills, let's say how good you were 1 to 100 at the time of Magic. What are you now? Like, is it you don't really forget, or are you going to be a little rusty and like only a certain tricks you nail? But
I think that when it came down to it, I was pretty good at my hand manipulation. Like I was pretty smooth. I would have back then. I probably would have given myself for the things that I did with cards. I would be in the 90s for sure, and now. You know, Magic is one of those things you don't really lose. If I did a cold right now, I would be in the 50s. But if you give me a few hours to warm up and practice, I could probably get myself in the lower 80s is my guess.
80s can get it done. That's not bad. Yeah, you got to still have.
If I was motivated, I could still crush a crowd probably is my guess. But
what would you say your main hobby is now? What is your actual, like you go bike riding, do stuff like what is something that's like on the top of your list for fun or to relax, like when you just get a little time for you?
Beach. I was never really a beach guy, but I just now with my kids, they love the beach. The sand used to drive me nuts. It would get all over the place. But now I kind of got over it, and now we're on the beach a lot, boogie boarding, sand castles, you name it. We're just messing around, having a great time.
Beach time's good time. What is the price for you to stop playing poker right now? No home game, no live, no tournament ever again. You just get paid a lump sum. You cannot play any form of poker for the rest of your life.
Ever again?
Yeah, you're out. You're no longer playing poker.
Are we doing a lot of things? It's a big number because besides hanging out with my kids and my family, my second favorite activity on what used to be a semi, regular once a week kind of basis is
Yeah.
poker. The banter and the fun and the jabs and the BS at a poker table. There's just nothing like it when you're playing with good friends for high stakes and you're just having a blast. So it would take a lot. That would be a big number. I don't want to say the number, but it's, if you give me a number, I'd say over or under, but I'll give you one guess.
Oh, okay. I think about it for a second. A couple of people you got to be careful too. We had a couple of people may just snap you off. They may just put you down if they hear it and make the offer. So you do got to be careful.
Only Perkins. He's the only one that might snap it.
Yeah, I'd say like 25 million, but probably maybe. That feels like a good line.
It's a good line. It would be so tough to turn down 25 million, but not to play poker ever again. That would be heartbreaking for me.
The longer you think and the harder
I love poker. I love poker. Even when we have a 5-5 game for the wife, I mean, it's just so much fun.
That's what I'm saying. It's like one of these very interesting questions. It's almost like you'd have to really get an offer that you knew was real to entertain it, because it's just kind of a tough one. Yeah. I don't know, man. To think of you just X'd out of all poker forever, it's kind of, I think it's
what I do with myself. I mean,
it's tough.
I don't know. I think 25 million, I kind of have to take it for the kids, but I wouldn't be thrilled about it. It's one of those things you kind of have to do, but you're not excited about. Kind of like when you wake up early to go work out. You're not excited to wake up, but you got to go do it.
Got to do it. Yeah, maybe you just become a very good magician again. Maybe that's what would happen. Take the money and you'd reinvigorate that. But all right, interesting. 25 million, fair enough. I saw this article popped up and talking about best celebrity poker players in Hollywood. You've rubbed elbows with a lot of different celebrities and players. This guy Houston Curtis put some stuff out. Do you feel this list for the top 5? Does this sound about right? Like, I
haven't seen this article. So
it's on Card Player. It looks like they mentioned James Woods, Todd Phillips, Ben Affleck, Nick Cassavetes, Rick Solomon. I played with some of these guys and know a bit about their games, but I don't know. Like, is there any players that you just feel are either not on here or just you feel are very strong players that you've played with? Because listen, most people play poker to some degree, celebrity, athlete, whatever they play or they have played.
Yeah. Well, I played with all the guys on that list, but there's a lot more that play in LA. Some are better than others, but I don't really want to sit here and name drop and do all that whole.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just curious. I understand, but it's safe to say that in terms of, there's a lot of guys. Like, the name of top 5, it's tricky because there's a lot of people that play, and that's like, it's like you start talking tournament, cash game, whatever. It can be different. What is who would you say is the toughest player you ever played against? Just like tournament poker. Is anyone you just really gave you a hard time? What's that?
Besides you?
Yeah. Well, listen, you can't PBS sidekick. I can't let you.
I don't know. They're all the little wizards are in the same category for me. They're all they always just know what to do when they do it. So if they don't have a tan and they're under 23 and they take forever, those are the guys I don't want to play against.
They're not. Okay, fair enough. And looking at your Hendon Mob, man, it's getting less and less. It really is. You look back, you were a grinder. You were playing, you were traveling, you were pushing around the circuit, doing things. In this 2018, last 2019, one cash. You almost just ripped off the main. No big deal. Just one and done, almost take it down. But 2020 with COVID, looks like you will be first time not on the Hendon Mob since the early days. What does that mean anything to you? Are you kind of like, wow, that's kind of crazy to think that you're sort of like off the scene in terms of poker, or is it just what it is and it doesn't bother you at all? Like, do you even think about stuff like that, or you just don't care?
I don't really care. It'll pop into my head from time to time, but I could honestly care less. I used to care so much about everything. And once I, it might be different for other people, but once I had kids and got a little bit older and more mature, I honestly do not care I'm not here to satisfy anyone else in any way. I'm here to take care of my family, spend time with my kids, live my life to the fullest. And I don't care what other people think. Now, I say that not with the bad intention of I don't
Right.
care what people like. Of course I care. I want to be kind and nice and loving and be a better net positive for mankind when I leave this place than before. But as far as like, oh, you know, he's not playing tournaments anymore, or he's washed up, or he can't play anymore, I could care less what people think in that department.
Absolutely. What about the best motivational book? This is a question here from Lena Ferraz. Do you have a motivational book that inspired you, motivated you, thought about things differently, or anything that really got you to take a strong look at what's going on?
I would say I really like the Four Agreements, even though it's not really a motivational book. I would recommend it. I think it's pretty important to stay true to your word. I think that everything in life kind of falls into place when your word is the foundation of everything that you are.
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely one of the best ones as well. How many? You have 2 WPT titles, I believe, 2, and how many bracelets? 4, 5? What's your resume?
2.5.
2.5 with the one drop. Do you count as one?
It's a half.
It's a hat. It's a big one to get though. I think you gotta count that one. What is let's see. There's a lot. Wow. How do you relax? I love that question because it's. I know you. You've told me about my phone, Mochi, being on the phone. You're a busy guy. You're connected. You're running. You're making moves. You got stuff going on. How do you actually like decompress? Do you put your phone down for hours of the day? When you're with your kids, are you fully present? Like, what are some rules and things you do to just sort of disconnect?
So, I mean, obviously, I try my best to be fully present, but there are times when I have to check my phone for something. I'm waiting for food, or there's things going on. But I don't ever want to be the dad where my kids notice they're talking to me, but I'm somewhere else. I never want to be that guy. But, you know, I relax when, you know, sometimes they take a nap and put my feet up, hang out, get some work done. And then in the evenings, you know, maybe twice a week, my new thing is having I found this beer that I absolutely love. And, you know, around 6, 7 o'clock when the sun's kind of starting to get a little bit lower and it's not so hot, I kick up my feet, watch the kids run out, and I have an IPA. That's kind of my, and I just won, because 2, it's like I feel it the next day, you know?
There were a lot of questions about drinking. How would you describe nowadays drinking in terms of, you know, you're not going to clubs really at all. But what about like getting at a night? Do you have wine? Do you drink beers? Do you have a casual beer? You said like what's your drinking?
I have a casual beer here and there. I like to drink wine maybe once or twice a week. I have some, you know, I open a nice bottle of red wine with dinner or something. As far as drinking alcohol and getting lit and buzzed up, it's probably 4 or 5 times a year, if that. It's not very often.
Not very often. What is your favorite place in the world to travel? Question. What was your best spot you've ever been to, poker and otherwise? Give me poker trip, and then also just
Melbourne, Australia is pretty special. The Bosphorus, Istanbul was pretty special. Big fan of Montreal. It's a great city, and also a playground there is just the poker club there is just on another level. So I would say those are probably my top 3 favorites.
Top. I agree on all those selections. What is your best magic trick? What was the one that just never missed? What was your always closing magic? What's the one that just seemed to wow people the most? Is there a name?
It was
like what is
it was that very first trick where you name a card, any card, and it's the only card face up in the deck. You remember I did it for Richard Branson at Perkins' birthday, and I almost got a free ride to space as a result.
You had it. You actually had a free ride. I think I'd have to scroll back. I forget where that is, but you're not that active on Instagram, so we could probably find it. But I remember it was, yeah, here it is. Look at that. No, you really don't post enough. You should give a little more to the fans, Antonio. This is like,
but it goes back to I'm not here to serve anybody.
I get it.
I just want to live my life. So I'm sitting there looking through photos, posting. It takes time. When something cool comes up and I want to post it, I do it. But
Yeah, that was just a 250,000 couple seconds. You couldn't help yourself for a few seconds. He even literally says it. He says, I was giving you a trip to space. Would you really go to space? Now, I just want to ask you again, your kids you're getting the full value. They're older. It's like a light bulb. That doesn't scare you at all? Like you would literally get on the rocket ship and go? You would do right now? You would say,
it does scare me, but I would have to go. If I had an opportunity to go to space, how do I say no to that? I gotta go. Just beam me up, Scotty.
I don't know.
I feel like Richard Branson is gonna create Virgin Galactic, and it's gonna be safe, and people are gonna go. So yes, I would go.
Okay, fair enough. You would go. That's.
Would you go? Would the wife let you go, PBF?
Yeah, I mean, I could go. I wouldn't go. I would not go. I would have to be. Not only would I not want to pay, I would. I don't know what. I can't imagine what I would. Honestly, there's not a number. Huh?
You would crap your pants.
I wouldn't. I don't think there's a number. I'd have to. It's just, I don't. It's like the last thing I'd want to do. But everyone's got their thing. So, fair enough. What was that? Was actually that trip might have been that Necker Island deal was maybe that might have been all time. That was up there as pretty special. Shout out to Strauss, man. Jason was flying. We were gonna get Jason on for a call in to the show, man. Tao, any words for any venues? Give me your favorite place to go if you want to let loose. Where do you just like? What's your spot? Vegas or
Vegas Marquee for sure, and not just because Jason is a good friend of mine. He owns it. It's just it's good. There's always a decent crowd. You know, I have a great relationship with everybody. It's kind of like Cheers. You always want to go where everybody knows your name. Right. You know, I don't want to. Plus, I don't ever book tables anymore, so it's like I don't want to deal with all that nonsense. There was a time when booking tables was my whole life.
They do a nice banner. They recycle and change the chips for you on your birthday. They give you at least a nice banner and a sign. So yeah, that's I love it. There we go. Marquis, got to give him some love. Bro, talk about your dad and your mom, how supportive they were all along your career and how they are. I mean, I have, I know your mom very well. I know your dad extremely well. He's just the legend of legends. How is how important and special is that to have them nearby and around and a part of your life? Because I mean, he's just been so many times. He's the one closing down the nightclub in the past when we go out. I mean, he's just the legend of legends. Give me a little something give me like your best memory with your dad and your mom in your life for where they've been with you and how they've been.
Well, I mean, first off, you just don't know how much your parents love you until you have kids. You'll never know. So to all the people out there that don't give their parents the love that they should, it's because they themselves probably don't have kids. And I think that you just, until you have your own, you just really won't know. And so I think you should give your parents a lot of love, because one day they'll be gone and you'll miss them and you'll be sad that you didn't have that amazing relationship or that you didn't go out of your way to go hang out with them. So I just want to get as much time with them as possible. My mom lives overseas, so I don't get to see her a lot, and especially since COVID, but she's booked to come here in a few weeks. So I'm kind of excited about that. And my dad, I get to see all the time. He's my bestie. He's the all-time legend. He's the bro. He's incredible. And he is my heart on so many levels. The things that he sacrificed to give us this life is unparalleled. And I love him. And, we've had so many incredible adventures together. We've traveled everywhere together. We've gone to Istanbul. I mean, that trip is you, me, 4 of our buddies, and my dad. How many times do we go somewhere and it's us and my dad?
Yeah.
So
it's pretty
he's the life of the party.
It really is. He's yeah, for sure. What a legend. It's amazing. I that point about your parents stuff too. I will say, out of all my friends, and I'm close to my parents, but you actually, I respect that a lot, and just how you go out of your way and you include them, bring them, have them around and involved, because it is there's not many people that have their parents kind of in the action with them or around. So that
it's also a matter of being able, like I was able to have my dad around. I think a lot of people would have their parents around if they could, right? But not everybody is in that situation, that fortunate situation that I happen to be in. Right. So
True. No, of course. Yeah. And also it's personality wise too. I mean, the scene and some of the stuff we do, your parents have to want to be and understand, except your dad's got a very laid back personality, very understanding, very go with the flow. Not all parents are going to they're just not gonna be in the scene at all times and handle it. But yeah, no, for sure. Shout out to bro, man. He's just always, it's just always a treat to have him around. All right, let's take a few more. I know there's a lot, so we're just trying to.
I gotta go pretty soon, PBF. We're an hour and a half in, so
yeah, hour and 15.
Do the second. I'm outside and the sun is starting to like catch up to my legs, so I don't have much more room on this side, so I'm about to start cooking.
You can be the first triple header. Like I said, that's fine. So we'll take a few more. We'll save it. Maybe Jason will join us on the next one. Night. This question gets asked a lot. I got to do it just out of respect. People want to ask. I already know the answer, but just to explain, people want to know what percent in the one drop you had. Can you just explain, first of all, why that's? I mean, obviously it's very private. Social security, what's your address, all this is a very private thing. People are obviously curious.
Not even so much about private. I just feel like you should never really share your net worth with people. And I feel that if I shared the percentage that I had of myself, it would give some inclination of perhaps, how much money I made. Well, obviously it would. And I just don't think that's really anyone's business but my own. So I always tell people it's somewhere between 1 and 100. And if they ask my CPA or my dad or me, if one of us breaks, they can have the answer.
There's a couple possibilities for an answer out there. Okay, fair enough. 1 to 100, that's fair. All right, 2 more, and then we're gonna let you run and enjoy your afternoon with the family. What do we got? What is your? Let's see. Wow, there's a lot of. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes they're a little crazy. Personal and crazy. And I see you answered. You did answer a couple on here. What do you want to be remembered as for your poker career? Looking back in the when it's all said and done and down the line and 20, 30 years, 40 years, there's some highlights or talk about it. Like, is there anything that you want to be? What would you want to have said about you with your career?
The guy that made poker fun.
Guy that make poker fun again. There and do you believe? Yeah. Do you think you are?
Great hat idea. Actually.
That's not bad.
Make poker fun again. I should get that hat.
That is, I think there's been some talk about that out there, but that's definitely, I think you could.
Poker used to be so fun. Now it's literally like robots playing each other. It's so tilting.
What do you think what could be done? The shot clock's big, of course. They've made some changes. The big blind ante speeds things up. What else is there anything you could see looking at it from kind of inside and say, wow, guys, what the heck? What are we doing? I think this would help. What would be your one?
I think there should be an anti-staring rule. I mean, there's a time when you want to look at your opponent. I get it. But to stare at him every single opportunity, just like, it's rude. It's borderline rude. It's like, I don't want to go to a staring contest. I want to go play poker.
Right. I'm with you on that. I think there would be, it's hard. It's a little bit hard to enforce, or how you're going to say,
I get it, but
just out of respect. All right.
Get it.
Last question, other than, what was the most memorable thing to happen to you that changed your life in a positive way? What was like something that just like snapped and you just like, it like shifted the way you thought? Is there something that stands out for you that changed you legitimately to sort of jolt you, shift you, excite you, motivate you? What could you name in your life that was that moment?
I mean, there's a few that I don't really want to talk about on camera. Some deep experiences that I've had. But again, Burning Man was pretty big for me. Having kids is pretty big because, they kind of make you want to be the best version of yourself. I think any experience that makes you want to be the best version of yourself is a good one. And I've had a lot of those.
Okay, that's awesome. I do this.
Yeah, right, I can't really get into specifics on that one.
Okay,
plus,
and this. I also this question from one of my lead moderators and the man Marco's talking about kids and competing sports. You're not a big sports person. You're not. You've gotten more into it. You're not fundamentally. I don't believe you grew up on sports or playing sports. The question is about competition in sports, and think about young kids competing in sports. Some say U.S. model takes out the love of the game. Are these sports his kids are interested in their own, or you want them to play? Like, how do you kind of deal with competitiveness and sport, like with kids? Like, what would you say is the right way to go about it, or how you want Noble and Zen to be raised, to be competitive and or just sort of have fun? Like, what's your take on that?
Kids are very competitive by nature, and I have to explain to my oldest, my 5-year-old, that it's not always about winning. He seems to think everything is a race and a competition, and so it's not easy to get him to understand that it's not. But I think having competitions is fine and healthy, but there's a time and a place for it. So, at this stage so far, I think he's on the right track, but just a little bit more of, hey, not everything is a competition. As far as sports go, look, I'm not a big sports guy. I'll let you answer that one, PBF. You're the sports wizard.
Well, you've really turned it on, and you've impressed me. You've shown range in the last few years.
We got Kittle. I know that.
That's good. That was an expensive sign. All right, let's do this. Retweet. We're going to sign it. We're going to copy it. 109 ticket, courtesy of the man right here, Magic. Antonio, you're going to gift it to someone. You tell me when. We're gonna ride off in the sunset. We're going to queue up our third one coming up in the future, and you tell me when someone's going to win this 109 ticket on your command. You tell me when.
Wait, anytime I just say stop?
You just do it, and it's RNG, and someone's going to win or lose. This is on you. This is a gift, a 109. Someone could parlay it in the
countdown from 3, 2, 1, stop.
Someone's winning a 109 ticket, and with that, we are gonna look at this. This is a big one. This is taking a while to load. This is a serious giveaway. $109 ticket right there. There it is. He is. So I don't know how to pronounce it. Big Problem says RLW. What's cracking? That's a 109 ticket. We'll send you a message, Antonio. I appreciate the time as always. Great to catch up. Say hi to Amal, Noble, Zen, bro. Pasha. Didn't give enough brotherly love. Love Pasha. What a legend. I'm jealous he's there. And say hello to everyone for me. Thank you so much, and I hope we see you soon. Love PBF. All right, PBF sidekick. I see you on there. Thank you for that nice thing. Don't change that. That's a good look for you. We'll see you soon. Much love. Bye. Antonio Esfandiari, guys, in the books. Check him out. Instagram, Twitter. He's not a big social guru guy, but when he posts, it matters. And we'll see you guys very soon. So again, podcast 2 next week. So much fun. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If your question didn't get answered, he does go ahead and answer a lot of questions, so you might actually get that. We appreciate it. I saw everyone here in the live chat. This will be out on all the podcast outlets. So if you want to listen to it on Apple, iTunes, or Spotify, tune in. There's a few others as well. That plus all the other will be there. 86 podcasts in the books. 2 more to come next week at least. We'll see you guys soon. We got Twitch streaming Saturday, Sunday, big events, WPT. It is a $3 million guaranteed, $3,200 knockout will be in that. We got some others. We got action up on Stay Kings. And again, I thank you so much for being here, and really, really enjoyed it. As always, Antonio drops a lot of interesting knowledge and experiences, and it really is really storied career and has kind of done it all. So really appreciate that time from him, and we'll see you guys on the next podcast. Thank you so much.